All right, it's time to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is raising private money, okay? I don't know about you, but I'm freaking excited to talk about this one. Okay, but first, before we dive in, all right, we got to review a quote from the mindset piece that you should have read yesterday, okay? The quote goes something like this, okay, the secret of being debt-free is to create more value in the world than we consume, right? To serve more than we're served, okay? I'll say this, okay, when we open our minds and we shift our perspective and think, beyond our small financial concerns, we begin to find and identify ways to fulfill the wants and needs of others. In other words, guys, we find ways to provide value, right? When I opened my mind and shifted my perspective and moved past my financial concerns, my life changed dramatically. And I repeat that right now in the beginning because today and the rest of the week, right, we're going to be talking about raising that cold, hard cash, right? But I want to be clear, okay? Raising private money isn't about me or you. It's not about us, okay? It's about our investors. It's about how we can use our talents by taking, the knowledge that you're learning and acting upon every single day and using it to help your investors get better returns. So remember that, okay? And your life will change dramatically as well because you will be one valuable and, dare I say, attractive son of a... Let's dive in, okay? Let's dive in. All right, raising private money. All right, private money investors, as you probably know, if you paid attention yesterday, right, cover the last 20 to 30% of the equity that we need to close the property. The debt side's easy, the equity side not so much. And because of that, raising capital is one of the most, if not the most coveted skill in the business. Money might not buy happiness, but it will buy a whole lot of apartments, and apartments do create happiness, okay? So as long as we're in this business, we're always going to be looking to build investor relationships. So Raising Private Money series is going to consist of 3 parts, okay? It's not just a one-time thing, it's a 3-part thing. So laying the foundation, essentially what you need to do before you have a deal, right? Where to find investors, what to say to them, how to prepare them, that kind of stuff. Number 2 is contract to close, which will cover how you present the deal to your investors and then complete the raise. Important. And then number 3 is investor relationships. So how to communicate with your investors and take care of your investors after we close, okay? But today, we're going to begin the Laying the Foundation series. Okay, that's what we're going to begin today. We'll go through an overview. The foundation, though, so it's going to, today will be an overview, right? A quick overview of raising private money. We'll get into, next we'll get into, the proper mindset or what we call the frame. Also how to create raising money systems like content creation, building an email list, networking events, that kind of stuff, and then how to perfect your elevator pitch. So let's dive into today, okay? A quick overview of private money. So private money investors, these are high net worth individuals, okay, that will invest anywhere from $25,000 to $25 million. They're typically looking for an 8% preferred return, which, if you remember, that just means that they get paid before we do, right? In the waterfall structure, they get paid first. And then they are expecting annualized rates of return north of 16% over a 3 to 5 year hold, okay? All right, now where do we find these people, okay? Friends and family are the most common, okay? They're the most common. This is where people usually start because they have this circle of trust already. Friends, family members, they typically invest through self-directed IRAs, 401ks, cash, equity lines of credit are popular as well. I just read a stat that there's 14 trillion, with a T, trillion of untapped equity in the U.S. right now. That's crazy. Listen, it is our job to help those people put that to work for them, right? It's our job to put it to work for them. Family office functions are great. These are families who have created massive amounts of wealth in different industries. The most popular family offices are the Family Office Club and Opal Financial. Okay, they put on events. They're very, very good events, usually in Florida or the Northeast. Crowdfunding, and by Northeast, that means I can't remember the state. Crowdfunding is growing in popularity. It's certainly something to check into, but I have never funded a deal through crowdfunding. Okay, the 2 most popular sites right now are Fundrise and CrowdStreet. So Fundrise allows accredited and non-accredited investors to participate. CrowdStreet is for accredited investors who want to invest in secondary markets, okay? Something to look into, but nothing that I've funded a deal from. Now, and as a reminder, there's 3 different types or basic types of investors, okay? We have accredited investors, sophisticated investors, and then man on the street. Now, accredited investors, to qualify, this is what we're looking for first off, but to qualify as an accredited investor, they must meet one of the following, right? They must earn $200,000 a year or $300,000 a year if they're married, or have a net worth of over $1 million, not including the equity in their home. And we can have an unlimited amount of accredited investors on our deals. Sophisticated investors, now they don't meet accredited investor qualifications, but they have investor experience, right? No more than 35 on a deal. They're a little bit more risky, but I'll explain what offerings we can utilize them on. And then man on the street. Okay, man on the street doesn't qualify as accredited or sophisticated. This is usually maybe a family member or friend, but we usually do not allow man on the street in our deals. Now, we can use a basic form to qualify him, okay? Something like this. Your private placement memorandum, the PPM, will have the actual subscription agreement. And this is just another layer of security. This form is just another layer of security to make sure that we're not wasting our time. You should actually have this template, by the way, in your path, in the path underneath your document library. But if you can't find it, okay, let us know. We'll send it over, okay? Now, what are these investors looking for? It's critical. The first thing that I would challenge you to do, or to ask, I guess, is what do your investors want? What are they looking for, right? On the most basic level, they are looking for cash flow and or equity, right? Cash flow and equity. Regardless, though, it's important to know, what's most important to them so we can focus on helping them achieve their financial, investment goals. Meaning that we only send them deals that meet their criteria, right? So we need to know what their criteria is. Now, on a more deeper level, they're looking for, diversification, open communication with sponsors, a solid business plan from the sponsors, consistent returns and high returns, right? Stability, tax incentives, passive income, risk-adjusted returns, a hedge against inflation, something backed by a hard asset, etc., right? There's a lot of things that they're looking for that these properties provide. Now, the two offerings that we typically use, okay? We have 506B, and then we have 506C. Now, 506B is probably the most common offering, okay? The pros, I guess, of a 506B, we can accept accredited investors or non-accredited investors. Also investors, and up to 35 non-accredited investors, but they can also self-verify, which just makes the process a lot easier, okay? The downside, though, is that we cannot do a general solicitation. So we can't generally solicit or advertise, which means we have to have a pre-existing relationship in place with any investor coming into the deal. Now, a 506B, or a 506C, sorry, the pros of that, we can broadly solicit, and generally advertise our offerings, which is nice. Can make it very nice. The downside, okay, the cons, all investors have to be accredited investors, and we have to take reasonable actions to verify accredited investor status, which usually involves, using a third party, like Verify Investor, or, verifying, using their personal. So Verify Investor to verify that, or using their personal CPA to verify. Both of those can be frustrating for us and the investors, okay? We've done both types of offerings, and I promise you there are pros to cons to both. My advice would be to talk to your SEC attorney when the time comes and decide what's best, okay? They'll give you good guidance there. Now, some things to remember as we dive into this, okay? Things to remember. Number one is to under-promise and over-deliver. I'm sure I stressed that many times at the 3-day class, okay? Never try to inflate your numbers in hopes that you can attract investors. Okay? That will ruin relationships. It'll stunt your growth, and it'll make your life hell throughout the entirety of the hold process, okay? It is critical, man, that we do everything in our power to hit our return projections, especially in the beginning. One of the ways we do that is to set reasonable returns, okay? Now, number two, remember that communication will solve a whole bunch of problems, okay? Let them know that they can call anytime, and trust me, they rarely do, but offering that and meaning it, being sincere about it, will absolutely set you apart, okay? Also make sure that we need to make sure that we're sending reports, right? Regularly and on time. So we send monthly and quarterly reports. We send a monthly profit and loss statement. We send budget comparisons, variance reports, executive summaries. We'll cover all of those in more detail later. Okay? But for now, it's just important that to make that a priority, right? To make communication a priority. And then number three is to treat the money better than you would treat your own. To remember that, and this is, I would say this is probably one of my biggest bits of advice, okay? Meaning, don't do any deal simply because you would make money from the deal. All you got to do is remember the quote from the beginning, right? We have to put our petty financial concerns aside and focus on providing true value. And when we do that, things change, okay? Don't try to underestimate the downsides of a deal just to get an investor to invest in the deal either. Own every single downside. Own it, okay? And then explain the solutions that you have in place, and let them make the decision that's best for them. I believe that trust is ultimately given to people who are worthy of that trust, and y'all are absolutely worthy of the trust if you decide to be, okay?